Hey everybody, I wanted to do an updated shop tour. So this is the outside of the shop. I've been doing a fair amount of bowl turning lately. So I've got this cesspool of ready to turn stuff, which looks disgusting, but it's just dirt, so don't worry about it. It's basically an old freezer that I turned into a water bucket, and I just put, there's usually like a dozen blanks in there. This is the lathe, the big lathe that I keep outside. I built a stand for it. It's just out of some cheap plywood, about the cheapest plywood you can get at the home store. And it's held up pretty well. It's been 2 seasons now. There's not much warping. It's on some big industrial casters where I can lock them and move the lathe anywhere, which I think gives me a little bit of an advantage being able to get to both sides of the lathe. The leaves have recently fallen off this tree, and you can see there's the rim of a bowl that about hit me 6 months ago as I was turning it, flew off. So here's the shop. Now, not too much has changed on the outside. I put some speakers up so I could have a little bit of sound. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts in the shop lately. As you can see, I've been working on more turning projects, some segmented. These are just test pieces out of pine. Also a test piece, but that's a secret because you're not supposed to see that. Please excuse the mess. But we'll take you on a quick tour here. So I'm using this super wide on my phone, which hopefully will give you a good field of view here. It is a little messy. This is a working shop. There's always 5 or 10 projects going on at any given time, so it doesn't get super clean. So as you can see, this is pretty close to the same setup. I probably changed a couple things. The TV might be new from the last one. There's a saw back here, a saw up there. No, those are new. Nothing too exciting. Some little turning projects that I'm working on. It's a lot of organization. So if we just take a look, pan through the whole shop, you can see nearly all the walls are covered, except for this one, but this has got cleaning stuff on it, and these doors, it's kind of a double door situation that swings open in the summertime. Everything's covered. I mean, every square inch is covered. Projects going on up there, all projects. All kinds of different aerosol stuff, spray adhesive, different things that I use for different stuff, non-stick PAM for various different things, stuff for cleaning tools, lubrication. This dry lube is awesome. If you've never tried that, Teflon dry lube is an amazing thing. And I've added a couple more of these organizers here. So just kind of metal odds and ends. A lot of times I'm fixing stuff and I'm making new stuff, inventing stuff. So odds tends to be something that comes in handy more often than you might think. Having odd things that don't go to anything, went to something, just a random assortment of just stuff of whatever it is, plates and nuts and whatever else. And same thing with plastics. This is all hanging hardware, hooks, chain, cable, wire, whatever. Some knobs and handles for tools in there, washers. See, all these are full. They're packed full. Washers, all nuts, hex bolts. This one you can barely lift out because it's just full of stuff. It'll probably fall apart at some point. More bolts. These are variation of screws, and these are standard screws that I use in finished projects if I'm using them that way. This is my little scrap bin. That's where all the small scraps go. Anything bigger than that goes into a storage area. I recently put this on. It's just a roll of paper, but when I'm finishing or gluing or whatever, I can just roll that paper up there, and that becomes really convenient. This is the only thing on the bench right now, which is these giant lag screws that I found when I was picking a couple nights ago. If you're interested in picking salvage stuff, you should check out my Dat Dumpster series. I basically go picking, show you all the cool stuff I come across. Check that out on my channel if that's something that interests you. Just some spare material. This is also just scrap stuff that's cut off from other things. That's a secret project too coming up here. This whole wall is finished all the way down. This little lathe I almost exclusively use as a strop now. Then I also bought this toolbox. This toolbox is not a bad toolbox for the price. I've got all kinds of different stuff. Got a calipers and marking stuff, some safety gear, different stuff for filming in here. More calipers, snap ring pliers. Then I've got all my router stuff, so all router bits, rotary bits, trim router. The other router is mounted in the table saw table over there. This one's sockets. I have way too many sockets, more sockets than I really need, that's for sure. But they do come in handy and I do use them. And I needed a place to store them. This is all drill bits. It's a big Forstner bit for you. Doesn't work very well, being that it's some Chinese crap. But it works well enough to drill a hole now and then when I need it. And then some safety gear. Harbor Freight clamps, some little clamps, then toolboxes, a lot of toolboxes. I've got saws over here, various hand saws. I don't really need big hand saws. I have those big ones way up there, but I don't really need big hand saws that often. So I've got like this one. This is a saw that I got from the dollar store, and I plan on making another one for a video. It actually works really well once you've got it all tuned up. Coping saw, flush cut saw. This is awesome. Cheap Harbor Freight flush cut saw, but invaluable when you need it because nothing else cuts like flush cut saw. I've been using this miter box, and you can see the miter box there, and that saw is for the miter box. I've been using that a fair amount, just because it's nice to not make noise. If it's late at night, I don't want to turn the table saw on and make a bunch of noise. It's nice to use that. So you can see hammers. I've got this little hammer here. Cheap Chinese stuff again, but it works okay for what I need it for. I just put a screw in the top when the head came off, started coming off of it. Medium-sized hammer, big claw hammer, and then a mallet down there. You can see I've got different rasps, some squares here, screwdrivers, awls, picks. Like I said, I do a lot of little weird fixing stuff, random. So picks and things like that come in handy. Pliers, wire strippers, and various other little tools that I need. Then I've got can plane, which is a Harbor Freight plane. This plane sucks, and maybe I just got a crappy one. I don't know if somebody has a good one that works. This thing is never square, never flat, wasn't milled flat. I've tried 100 times to change. It's this shoe in here, I think that's what you call it, that is not flat. It's off, so every time the blade is tilted, you can see I've got this cranked like all the way over, and it's because it's not flat. It still doesn't even sit flat to the wood, so no fixing that. This one's good. This is actually a better plane than that one. Same thing, I think I got this at Harbor Freight too. Some knives, chisels. I have a lot of Harbor Freight stuff just because I'm cheap. These chisels are pretty awesome for what you pay for them. It's a pretty good little set for starter. Then I've got some more utility chisels that I don't really care about, scrape and glue and whatnot. And another mallet that I made. This one's got some copper ends on it. I've got a strap here for knives and tools and whatever else. A couple little marking utensils and some cleaning stuff. And if we look up top here, so this is all small hinges and hardware for hanging pictures and making boxes, things like that. This is more odds, which is metal bracketry, springs, whatever else, things I might need. Some small containers for mixing stain. Got a tripod for filming. These are my bigger turning tools. There's sharpening stuff up in here. And then I have these, which are just the top of totes. They're just plastic, but they're good for cleaning saw blades and stuff. There's a rotary tool up here. Looks like my lighting is getting a little weird. There we go, that helps a little bit. So there's a rotary tool up there. Some tarps, plastic, stuff like that. Then I have this bandsaw. I don't think I've ever talked about the bandsaw. It's just a Harbor Freight. I'm sure somebody's got a good review on it. I do not have a good review on it because it sucks. And I bought it used for $50, which is probably why it sucks. There were a couple things broken on it. The casting in the back, you can see, you might be able to see there. I had to make a few adjustments to it, change a few things because it's broken, so it doesn't I've never had this saw cut straight or very well for that matter, and I probably don't have very good blades on it. I'm not real familiar with the bandsaw still to this day, so what's going to happen is it's probably going to get put outside with a cover on it like the other tools that are bigger, and I plan on putting a flip top table here that probably has this sander and a few things that I forgot to show you. so it'll probably have that grinder on it. It's a Harbor Freight grinder. It's actually a good grinder though for the cost. I bought it at a pawn shop, but even if I bought it new, there's a 4-inch joiner under there. This is some more scrap under there. Even on the ceiling, I've got a few things mounted. So there's a face mask for when I'm turning or grinding, using whatever. There's a lot of clamps, spring clamps. I use a lot of spring clamps since I do a lot of little projects. This is a dust fan that was previously a bathroom fan that I wired up. It actually works really well for this little space. If it was a bigger space, it wouldn't work very well. But it works great for this space because it's such a small space. It'll clean it up in 30 seconds. It'll suck all the air out of it, which is nice. These are large and small rags. And I think that pretty much covers the shop. I've got a few things up here too. That's my old drill, saber saw, and a router, plunge router in here, pneumatic stuff here. There's the compressor, some other little pen blanks parts in there, any plans, paper files, things like that I need in the shop, I'll keep there. For heat, which I'm going to need here real soon, I've been using this propane heater, which is much better and cheaper than the electric heater, so I don't even use that anymore. This propane heater works awesome. This is just the bottle top ones from Harbor Freight too. So I think that pretty much wraps up the shop tour. I wanted to share that with you guys. I've yet to use this while we're out here. This is a tool rest for the lathe when I do an outboard turning, which should be coming up here soon. If I can pull the cover off and show you. Got a little leaves behind there. So as long as you keep this stuff lubricated, you can keep it outside under a cover. And I just made these covers, or this cover. I've made a few of them in the past. I used to have a big scroll saw out here. But I can flip this to the side, then it's got a big swing on it. Then I'll use that to turn whatever I've got to turn. But anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any questions about anything in the shop, or anything else for that matter, feel free to leave a comment, send me a message, whatever. And until next time, you guys have a good one.